What's up, everybody? Nate Reg here from NateReg.com, and we're going to continue the 31-day challenge. And today's topic is going to be balancing and the rock paper scissors concept. I think this is a very good topic because a lot of people are just throwing around the word balancing and they don't really know what it means. And ultimately, just thinking about the game of poker in a very simplified matter. Of just a simple game of rock paper scissors will allow you to think about very complex poker situations in a very simplistic matter, and it'll kind of simplify how you're going to want to approach the game of poker. So to go ahead and start off, let me go ahead and let me make the brush size a little bit bigger here. Oh, maybe not that big. Okay, so basically, I'm going to explain the poker and balancing in the case of rock paper scissors. If you guys don't know, rock paper scissors is just kind of a childhood game that's really popular in the U.S. among other countries. If you're not aware of it, it's pretty simple. You can Google it really quick. But essentially, there's a concept of you choose either rock, paper, or scissors, and you have one opponent, and they choose rock, paper, or scissors, and then you guys basically throw out your hands at the same time, and whoever has whatever hand out will beat the other person. So basically, how it goes is rock beats scissors, and scissors beats paper, and paper beats rock. So that's essentially the game. So, for instance, if I'm playing against someone and we go rock, paper, scissors, and then I throw out scissors, and then they throw out paper, well, then I'll win, and that's essentially how it works. It's a very simple game. So let's talk about balancing in general, kind of what it means. Balancing just literally means that you're playing unexploitably. Okay, so what does exploitability mean? Exploitability means that you're playing in a way in which you can. If someone's playing against you, they can actually beat you for a lot of money. So let's say, for instance, in the rock paper scissors game, you have three options: rock, paper, scissors. Let's say for whatever reason you love playing rock and you play rock 100% of the time. 100%, and paper, not so much. You play 0%. Scissors, same thing, 0%. You only play rock. So what does this mean? Well, okay, if you're let's say you're playing against some guy who's playing I don't know, let's say he's playing paper 50% of the time. Let me change his color. Let's say this guy's playing paper 50% of the time. Scissors 25% of the time. Oops, I don't know why I did the percent first. 25%, and then rock 25%. It's probability, so it has to equal 100, of course. So what does this mean? This means that 25% of the time, you guys are going to tie. This means that 50% of the time, you're going to lose because you're throwing down rock and he's throwing down paper. Lose, and then 25% of the time you're going to win. And let's say for each round of rock, paper, scissors, you guys bet $1. Alright, so let's look at this again. 25% of the time you guys are going to tie. So 0.25 times $0 plus 0.5 for 50%. 50% of the time you lose $1 plus 0.25 you win $1. Okay. So if we want to go ahead and add that up, it's 0 minus 0.5 plus 25. So if you go ahead and add those all together, you're going to lose 25 cents each time you play a game of rock, paper, scissors. Now, this means it's exploitable in the long run. You're losing 25 cents because you decide to play rock every single time against this person that plays, the 25% rock, 50% paper, and 25% scissors. You don't really want that. You guys are both playing exploitably. As you notice, he's playing a lot of paper. And let's just say this is just how he plays. This isn't him trying to exploit you. He just happens to really like paper a little bit more than rock and scissors. Not quite as much as you like rock, of course. But yeah, it just naturally he will exploit you, just the way he plays. So I think that's important in poker because this is kind of how people play poker. They just play hands that they like, and then they fold hands that they don't like, and they're not really trying to exploit anyone. They're just playing hands. So now let's kind of think about this. Instead of us really enjoying rock, instead of just playing rock because we love our first level thinking rock's the best hand and we're just going to play rock every single time, let's go ahead and see what happens if we try to exploit this guy. Go ahead and erase this. Oh god, that's going to take forever. I guess that's the biggest. Here we go. Do rectangular selection, and hopefully this works. Boom, delete. Cool. Okay, so let's say instead of 100%, 0%, and 0%, we go ahead and delete that. Let's say instead we know that this guy plays paper a lot more than any of these other ones. So let's go ahead and say we're going to try to exploit him this way. Let's go ahead and say for a new distribution, let's get blue this time. For a new distribution, well, let's see, what beats paper? Scissors beats paper. So let's say this time we just switch to 100% scissors. 100% scissors, 0% paper, and 0% rock. Alright, so instead of tie, lose, and win, now when we play paper, we're going to win. I guess actually let me put it this way. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. Let me say when he plays paper, or I'm sorry, when he plays scissors, we're going to tie. When he plays paper, he's going to lose, which is 50% of the time. And when he plays rock, he will go ahead and win. And that's 25% of the time. So 25% of the time, what is it? 25% of the time, he's going to be playing rock when we play scissors, and we're going to lose $1. Minus $1. And then we're going to go ahead and add in 50% of the time, 0.5 times $1 because we're going to win. If you guys can see that, he's going to be playing paper, and we're going to be playing scissors, so we're going to cut up that paper, and that's going to be 50% of the time, so we're going to win $1. And then when he plays 25% of the time, he's going to play scissors as well. We're both going to have scissors, and we're going to tie. That means we're going to win $0. So 0.25 times $0. It's really hard to type or write with the mouse. Alright, so we go ahead and add this all up. Negative 0.25 plus 0.5 plus 0. Add this all together, it's going to be plus 0.25. So in this game, on average, we're going to win 25 cents every single game. We're just going to throw out our hands. No matter what happens, we'll throw out rocks sometimes. We'll throw out paper sometimes, and he will throw out scissors sometimes. But in the long run, we're going to make 25 cents on average every single time we do rock paper scissors. And that's pretty profitable. That's pretty good. And that's essentially what we're going to try to do in poker. We're going to try to identify where our opponent is playing too much, and we're going to try to exploit that. So let me go ahead and bring up balance. Go ahead and delete all that. Cool. So we still have rock paper scissors. Now let's say that we're going to be playing against a really, really, really good player in rock paper scissors. We know nothing about this guy other than he's won all the rock paper scissors championships. This guy is really good at rock paper scissors. He's really good at exploiting his opponents, and he knows all the information that we just saw. How would we play against him? Well, we know that we're not going to really beat him because we just learned about rock paper scissors and how to play. So we want to learn how to not lose. So what we're going to do is we're going to play rock. Oh, there we go. Select that. So we're going to play rock 33% of the time. Paper 33%. And scissors 33% of the time. 33.3333, repeating decimal, of course, but essentially a third of the time we're going to play rock, a third of the time we're going to play paper, and a third of the time we're going to play scissors. This is very balanced. If you can imagine, like, that Greek goddess thing that holds up that balance, and there's different balances on it. Just imagine it's all balanced like this. Everything weighs the same. 33%, 33%, 33%. So that's gonna be balanced right there. So now let's just say that this time this pro will play, I don't know, let's say he plays 33% rock, 33% paper, and 33% scissors. Well, as you can see, he's playing the exact same game as us, and he's just going to tie us. Okay, so he can't beat us that way. We're just going to tie that way. Let's say that he just decides to play 100% rock, and 0% paper, and 0% scissors. Okay, well, let's see. He's going to play rock. When he plays rock 100%, 33% of the time, he's going to tie. 33% of the time he's going to win, and 33% of the time he's going to break even. So the 33% of the time, so 0.33, he's going to win $1. 33% of the time he's going to lose $1. Okay, that's really ugly looking. And 33% of the time, okay, those are better looking threes, he's going to break even. If you add it all together, it equals 0. Okay, so he plays an even distribution. He breaks even. Let me go ahead and it's EV neutral. He plays 100% rock, and that's EV neutral. And if you go through any combination, every single combination is going to be EV neutral. So it doesn't matter if we're playing the best player in the world or someone exploitable, or someone playing rock 100% of the time, or any other distribution in between. It doesn't matter who you play, you're going to be EV neutral, and this is perfectly balanced. And this is essentially what you want to do in poker. If you're playing a player that's really, really good, you want to play a perfectly balanced strategy, and you're never going to win against them. You're just going to not lose against them. You're going to try to break even. And that's essentially what you want to do. If you're playing against regs and really good players, you want to more or less break even, make a little bit of money if you can, but your goal is to at least break even against them, and then you're going to exploit the fish. Because regs aren't going to be making that many mistakes. Regs are going to more or less be playing 33% rock, 33% paper, 33% scissors. So you can't really exploit them. All you can do is just play this strategy and break even with them. Now, fish, on the other hand, will be playing with this strategy where they'll have 100% rock, 0% paper, and 0% scissors. Now, against them, you don't want to play a balanced strategy because it's just going to be EV neutral. What you're going to want to do against them is play in a way that you can go ahead and exploit them. So let's go ahead, and in the next part, we're going to be talking about how we can apply this concept to poker and actual poker situations. Alright, so now we know the whole rock, paper, scissors concept, but how does this apply to poker? Well, I'll go ahead and show you some examples. Let's use these examples that I have up here for ways to think about how we can use this whole concept of rock, paper, scissors to go ahead and exploit these specific player types, or avoid being exploited by them in certain cases. So let's go ahead and talk about this. What I'm going to have up here is just different players or scenarios, and I'm going to go ahead and pause and give you guys some time to think about how would you exploit these players. And I'll try to give you enough time, but I don't promise anything. So go ahead and pause it if you want to guess. And I highly encourage you guys to think about this, not just let me tell you the answers. Try to go ahead and pause it and guess how to exploit these player types given the rock paper scissors concept. And then I'll go through and I'll go ahead and give you what I think would be the best way to exploit these players. What that would be. So, for an example, I'm just going to say they limp too much. If they limp too much, how are we going to exploit them? Well, we're going to exploit them by raising a wide value range pre-flop. So that makes sense. They're going to be limping a very wide range of terrible hands. Let's just say, I don't know, King 6 suited. So this means that we can play a lot of really solid hands in position. Like we could raise pocket 8s, we can raise Ace 8 suited on the button, we can raise King 10 offsuit. We could raise all sorts of hands that will be this player. So go ahead and look through these and try to answer them in your head and what you think is right. So I'll give you like 2 seconds, and then I'm just going to go ahead and fill them out. So go ahead and pause it now. Okay, cool. So for loose passive players, what are they doing, and how do we exploit them? Well, basically how they play is they're going to be doing a lot of calling and very little raising. They're the type of player that likes to chase draws. They like to call all the time. They never like to fold. These are the typical players you'll see at the micro stakes and live poker in general. So how do you exploit these guys? Well, if they're putting in a lot of money with very weak hands, then that means that we're gonna value bet them relentlessly. Also, they are passive, so if we ever see them raise, that probably means they've got the nuts. So we're like never gonna call raises unless we've got the nuts. So give their raises a lot of respect. What does respect mean? That means if you have an overpair, you're beat. So fold. Don't call and think, well, maybe this time he might. No, he's got you beat. Pretty much when loose passes raise, they're gonna have 2 pair or better. And it depends what the board is, of course. Like if it's 4 flush, they're obviously not gonna have 2 pair. They're gonna have a flush. So just kind of use your brain. Like they're gonna have the nuts, or what they consider to be the nuts. So value bet them relentlessly. But if they ever raise you, then you avoid them. Alright, so loose aggressives, how do we exploit them? Well, again, they're pretty loose, so these guys aren't going to be limping a lot, but they are going to be playing a lot of hands. So what this means is we can play a tight range and dominate them. So that seems pretty standard against them. They're going to be betting a lot. What this also means is that they're rarely ever going to flop hands because they're going to have such a wide hand range. So what we can do is we can play back at them more. We could raise flops and stuff like that because they're rarely ever going to have strong hands. Even if they do hit top pair, they're very rarely going to have a good kicker or anything like that. So we can play back at them more. Another way we can play back at them is like 3-betting on preflop. So if they open a really wide range in the cutoff, we could just 3-bet them on the button, and they'll probably fold a lot. I mean, in theory, they'll fold a lot because their hand range is really wide. And they're not going to flat Ace 9 suited out of position or 10-8 suited or something like that. Cool. So nits. How do we exploit nits? Well, what do nits do? They just literally fold unless they've got the nuts. So against them, we're going to steal their blinds and basically avoid them whenever they're in pots because they're gonna have a really strong hand. So don't put in a lot of money unless we have the nuts. And also, if they raise, you should probably give them credit. They're not passive or anything. I mean, some can be passive, some aren't. But basically, they're just gonna have a stronger range in general. So let's say you open like Ace 10 in middle position, and a big nit calls in the big blind, and you flop an ace. Well, you're probably not gonna get 3 streets of value against a nit because he's just not gonna be playing like Ace 9, Ace 8, and stuff like that. So in that case, you might want to check your ace and kind of turn your hand, or I guess kind of like pot control with your hand, and not really go for value because you're not really getting called by that much worse. So that's how you play against nits. So how about a tag or a solid reg? How do you exploit them? Well, really you can't exploit them. Remember the whole rock paper scissors thing. They're going to be playing pretty well, and they're going to be playing pretty similar to you. So if they play a similar style to you, it's going to be more or less a break-even game, an EV neutral game. So what does that mean for poker? Well, poker is not necessarily an EV neutral game. Like, let's just say you go all in every single hand with an opponent, and that's a neutral EV spot. Well, you're not going to break even in the long run. You're actually going to lose in the long run, and the reason for that is because there's break. So against tags and solid regs, you should actually just avoid them because if you play against them, your EV is going to be neutral, but you're going to actually lose from rake in the long run against them. So I would say against tags and solid regs, just avoid them. And most tags and regs know this too. They will try to avoid you as well because they can't really win against you. What this also means is you might be able to try to play back at some regs. Like for instance, let's say a reg opens in the cutoff, or let's say a reg isolates a limper in the cutoff, and you 3-bet him on the button. Well, that's a good situation for you because you're giving him really bad options. His option is he can try to like 4-bet, bluff, and play back at you and play a very balanced strategy that you guys will break even with in the long run. And when you guys break even, he's going to lose money from rake. So if he plays back at you, he's going to lose money from rake, and if he folds, he's going to lose the 3 big blinds. So he's going to lose either way. Now, if he does the whole playing back thing, in the long run, you guys are going to break even and slightly lose. But if he ends up folding to your 3-bet, you're going to win money. So his options are lose-lose, and your options are win-lose. So you can actually put yourself into some pretty good situations there. So you should avoid regs in general, but if you understand that they know to avoid you, you can actually start exploiting them in certain ways and putting yourself in good game theory optimal spots. So we already did a player that limps too much. That seems pretty self-explanatory. How about this? A player who never folds to c-bets. I hear in like the comments section and a bunch of other spots people that are just saying things like, oh, this guy never folds to c-bets, and how do I play against him? I think it's actually really easy. It makes sense. Like, if he never folds to c-bets, you never c-bet bluff, and always c-bet for thin value. So if you've got pairs and really, really strong draws, then go ahead and bet for value. But if you don't have a hand, then don't bet. Like, it's like when people 3-bet ace king and they don't flop anything, and then they feel like they still have to c-bet anyway, and then they get really mad when the player doesn't fold their bottom pair or whatever it is. So if a player literally never folds to c-bets, then don't c-bet bluff them ever. It doesn't make sense at all. What about a guy who 5-bet shoves really light? Let's just say that this guy just spazzes out all the time and gets in like Jack 7 offsuit and Ace Deuce suited and all sorts of stuff like that. What does that mean for you? Well, that means that you can have a 4-bet call range equals wide for value and no 4-bet bluff range. So if someone 3-bets you, you should never against this guy. You should never just 4-bet bluff them ever. You should 4-bet them with hands like pocket 7s or pocket 8s or ace jack or something like that, and with the intentions of calling it off. You're rarely ever going to get in this spot at micro stakes and casinos and stuff like that. But if someone is doing this at like higher limits, or they're just spazzing out or whatever, then that's what you're going to want to do. And that's kind of like if you're playing against regs who are starting to try to like do that whole 3-bet, 4-bet, 5-bet dynamic, but they suck at it. This is something that you might run into. So just think about that. What happens if a guy has a 3-bet percentage of 1%? How do you exploit that? Well, if you don't know, you can check PokerStove real quick, but PokerStove will tell you that 0.9% is just aces and kings. So if this guy only 3-bets aces and kings, that means that you should just literally fold to his 3-bets every time, or try to set mine. Fold to 3-bets or set mine if you know he will pay off with overpairs. So that seems pretty obvious. What about this? These are these notes that I take that I don't know how often other people take. Like, I coach people and they just don't notice these little things. But what about if you see a player never really bets for thin value? So let's say he has top pair, okay kicker on a wet board, and just checks back river. That right there, I would go ahead and note, because that's a really important spot. Like, if they don't bet, that means that, what are they betting on the river, if they bet the river? So if they never bet river for thin value, and they bet river in the future, that probably means that they're either going to have, the nuts, like sets or something, or they're just going to have air, they're bluffing. So if they're not betting the middle of their range, you'll know that they'll have a polarized range, and you can actually bluff catch them a lot more. So you can bluff catch more often in future. So bluff catch them more often in the future. But make sure it's a good board for that. I mean, don't just call them every single time on the river. But just if their range has a lot of bluffs in it, then you can go ahead and call the river, because they're probably not betting you for value, like thin value on the river. What if their flop c-bet is really high and their turn c-bet is really low? This is a spot that you will often find with bad regs, but you have to actually kind of look for it. So if their flop c-bet is high but their turn c-bet is low, that means that you should float. Literally, they're just going to bet once, and if you call, they're just going to give up. So try to float, and then if they bet twice, just really respect that raise, that bet, because that means that they're going to have a really strong hand. What about a guy that 3-bets you too much, but we also look and he folds to 4-bets a lot? Or let's say that we see that he's been 3-betting us, so we try a 4-bet bluffing him, and it's been working a couple times. So what happens if he 4-bets too much, or he 3-bets a wide range, but then 4-bets a lot, or folds a 4-bet a lot? Well, we're going to want to 4-bet bluff him. And also, since he's folding a lot to 4-bets, we're going to want to do things like flat queens, flat jacks, stuff like that. And flat... we want to flat those hands just because if he's going to be folding a lot to 4-bets and just playing very tight to 4-bets, we want to go ahead and flat those hands so we can keep all of his bluffs in there and let him bluff off post flop, as opposed to re-raising queens and jacks and getting him to fold most of his range, and just only 5-betting with better hands than jacks or queens. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea of how you should think about your opponents in poker. Don't think about just what your hands are, or I have aces, what do I do? Or like, I have kings, should I get it in pre-flop? That stuff doesn't really matter. What matters is who your opponent is and how to exploit them. Think about every single opponent as like a little puzzle, and you have to figure out all the little pieces of it and put them in all the right spots. So, basically, if a new opponent sits down at your table, they're just this empty black box, and you gotta put in all the little puzzle pieces and figure them out. So if you start seeing them raise a lot, then add that aspect. Okay, if they're raising a lot, what does that mean? Okay, well, maybe they're playing a really wide range, so how would that affect them? Well, maybe I could try 3-betting them and see how they react. Okay, maybe so he's 3-betting, or he's folding the 3-bets a lot, so that means that I should start 3-bet bluffing him more and not really 3-betting him for thin value. And you just got to go through all these like thought processes, and if one thing leads to another, you can like test him out by trying to 3-bet bluff him a little bit more and seeing how he responds to that, kind of things like that, and then you can adjust your game against that person. You don't want to just be in a spot where you're literally just like waiting for aces and kings and just like playing your own hands and clicking buttons. You want to be actively engaged and thinking about the different players at your table and how to exploit each one. And I'll just let you know that everyone that you're playing against, including yourself, is going to be very exploitable. If you can't find anything, you're just not looking hard enough. There's very few players in this world who can play a truly unexploitable poker game. They're very high-level thinkers, but as you kind of saw before, playing unexploitably doesn't really mean anything, because that just means that they literally can't lose, but they're not going to win against you. So people who are good enough to play unexploitably, don't worry about them, because they'll play exploitably to exploit you, if that makes sense. So anyway, just try to exploit your opponents, and don't worry about playing too unexploitably. Just kind of avoid regs the best you can, and just really focus on people's exploitable tendencies, and that's really where money comes from in poker. So I hope you guys enjoy this concept. I hope that makes makes a little bit of sense. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask below in the comments. It's cool. See you guys next time. Peace.